So I had a couple of other questions I wanted to ask you about your experiences in high school and growing up in Denver, some of the challenges that you experienced. For example, I know you had told me about sometimes having to deal with things outside of our neighborhood, like going to a movie downtown or with your grandfather going out of the neighborhood.
Well, you know, I found, I think I mentioned before, Beverly Williams, who was the Cousins family. She and I were about the same age. We'd go to movies together, and we found that there were movies downtown that if we wanted to go to, we had to sit in the balcony. We were able to find a couple of movies that we didn't have to do that in. So we just, you know, we'd get together, she and I would get together, and our parents would drop us off at a movie, or, you know, because I wasn't old enough, we weren't old enough to drive.
Okay.
But that was, you know, it just kind of a shocking experience when you feel like you can go anywhere you want. Now, the thing that probably opened my eyes more was talking to my dad, who was born in Noonan, Georgia, and finding out the things that he went through. I compare that with what I experienced in Denver. For example, I graduated from Manual in 1954. That was from the new high school. Well, the old high school in '53, there was a situation of the prom. And to my surprise, there was a black prom and a white prom, and I didn't know that. I mean, I was shocked to find out that the white kids were having their prom, but they didn't want any black kids there.
Wow.
And you know, I'm saying, well, we do everything else together. We play football together. We do all of this, but we can't socialize at the prom.
Wow.
And it just kind of shocked me. You know, Colorado was, it wasn't like the South, but you know, there was a lot of subtle and overt as well, but subtle discrimination. And I guess I felt that after a while, you know, if you stay in your own community, you won't have any problem. Well, that's the way it usually is in most areas that do have racial issues.
Yeah.
It just seemed, though, that Denver was much more relaxed. The experiences that Dad talked about in Noonan, Georgia, and it's just like, you know, when we had a family member pass and he went down, but he wouldn't take me because he felt probably that I probably wouldn't come back here in one piece, you know.
Yeah.
Because I was pretty much outspoken. I didn't, you know, I wasn't used to that. And even in Chicago, there was, and I guess even as a little child, I saw a lot of mingling, you know, I mean, of people, and it didn't occur to me.
Right.
And I've, you know, not been in the South enough to really, I guess, say, to be indoctrinated.
Yes.
But it was just some surprising experiences. One of the surprising experiences that I can talk about was when I was on the police department, and I wrote a guy a ticket for running a stop sign. Gave him the ticket and went on about my business. Then a few minutes, I won't say minutes, but sometime later that evening, I got a call to go into the lieutenant called me to come into the station. That's what it was at 17th and Gaylord.
Okay.
And so I responded to the station, went into the lieutenant's office. He said he wanted me to apologize to this man for writing him a ticket.
Wow.
I'm saying, well, he ran a stop sign. What am I supposed to do? I want you to apologize to him for writing the ticket. So I apologized, but he still got the ticket. Okay. You know, but I mean, it's still, that kind of just never did set well with me, because I'm saying, well, you know, what am I supposed to do? Just because this guy is white, I'll let him run a stop sign, run into somebody, and just write black people tickets? Is that what you want? You know, I don't know. That was a very moving experience, for lack of a better word. It shocked me because, you know, when I started on the police department, I walked the beat down on 5 Points. Well, there were a lot of white patrons that would come down and socialize down there as often as blacks did. And, you know, if you were out of line, you were out of line.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, not putting anybody in jail that had to go.
Yeah.
So that was a shocking experience to have to apologize to somebody for doing my job.
Yes. Yes. I know you had mentioned too that a couple of the police officers that came in before you, Mr. Moore and Mr. Hudlin,
More in Hudley, yeah.
Hudley, had some issues with with not being allowed to arrest.
They could not arrest a white person. They had to, in those days, this was the early 50s. I think Moore went on in 49, if I remember correctly. But if they, most of the guys in those earlier years walked the beat down on the points. Well, there were a lot of white patrons that would come into the points. And if there was an arrest made, you had to call a white officer in to complete the arrest.
Wow. Wow.
So,
that's tough.
yeah, I didn't know all that when I went on. It was, it was a shocking experience to find out, no, you can't arrest this guy. Call. So I arrested him anyhow.
Yeah. I know that you've talked about a lot of different experiences and how the most disheartening part of being on the police department were some of the car accidents and some of those violent times where you had to contend with the damage or the injuries to people on the department. I can imagine that was really, really difficult for you to adjust to a little bit on the
Right, you mean in what
in your line of duty, yeah.
in what I would observe and so
Yes,
forth? Yeah.
uh-huh.
Well, and some of our own officers that would get involved in accidents. We sometimes you'd get involved in a chase, and just like Bob Pinkard,
Yeah, I remember Bob.
he really got bounced around in his car, and it was as a result of a chase. It was, and he actually endured brain damage from that.
Oh.
Yeah, it just, and so, that's another reason for wearing a helmet anymore,
Yeah.
but you police department is eye opener. I mean, you see everything. I've delivered, I think, 5 babies.
5.
I think it's 5 by now.
Wow.
And of course, the thing is, I was there to catch it, and I put it on Mama's lap, and then the ambulance attendants came in and tied the cord. But
Oh, wow.
that was quite a number of times that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
quite an experience.
Did you have some tough times during the civil rights activities in Denver?
Not so much. The basic thing that we were to do was to keep order, and you have to kind of throw your feelings out the window then, because you have to enforce the law, and that's what you're there for.
Yeah.
And there'll be a lot of times where people are trying to spit on you
Oh.
in all of this, but you just have to gut it through. I mean, and so it was tough. It was not easy at all. And emotionally, you want to take this guy around the corner and teach him his rights or whatever.
Yeah.
But you didn't do that. You just did your job. And when I became a sergeant, that was one of the things. As a first line supervisor,
Yes.
you have to. I had to counsel a few of our officers. I had to actually file some charges on them because of excessive behavior.
Oh.
So.
Yeah. Well, that was tough. So you had mentioned about an experience when you were in City Park with Joe Morrell, and you were in your 37 Plymouth, and there were some things
Yeah.
going on in the park.
Well, there was, we passed through the park. I had a couple of buddies, but we'd ride around. You know how kids do. And we were up, I think, by the lake, and a car came up with another group of kids that I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And a guy jumped on. He said, "We need some help. These guys are trying to do us in." So we pulled around there on the other side of the park, and there was this group of white kids in the car. harassing the black kids. And when we pulled up, they loaded up and booked out of there. But I mean, it was just that kind of thing, you know, from time to time you'd run into that kind of situation.
Yeah, outside of your neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much. I want to take you back too, because one of the things we heard so much about was your grandfather and his experience with the Ku Klux Klan in Denver.
Yeah.
And we had one of the largest memberships, probably over 50,000 members here in Denver, and Dr. Westbrook infiltrated the Ku
Yes.
Klux Klan.
Well, Dr. Westbrook was a light-complected black man, and I think we have a picture of him. But he actually infiltrated the Ku Klux Klan in Denver and kept the black community informed of what the Klan was intending to do. And it, you know, it really watered things down for the Klan because black folks were ready for whatever activity that they had planned against them. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I understand that they had reached the pinnacle of their power during the 1920s and were part of our government in the mayor's office and, the governor's office and
On down.
in the state reps,
And police chief.
police
and,
chief,
yeah.
yes. And Dr. Westbrook and your grandfather used to partner up to make sure they knew which one he
Yeah,
was.
and you know, that was the thing. My grandfather was a very dark complected man, and of course he couldn't infiltrate, but Westbrook was probably mixed with Caucasian. He was very light complected, and most people didn't know that he was black. And he was able to infiltrate a number of organizations and go to their meetings and, you know, and so forth. And I think Mom mentioned to me one time how they were planning, the Klan was planning this activity against the black community, and Westbrook was standing there right next to him, just listening to the whole thing, and they just went on with the plans. And of course, with his being there and being able to come back and warn the community, it just didn't come to fruition like it might have had he not been there.
Yes, and I remember you mentioning that your grandfather was building a house in Clayton Addition, and they were forced out.
Yeah, they, I can't remember exactly whether they just put signs up or just denied his entry. But see, and then that's the thing about when William M. Vail bought the house on Marion and then sold it to my grandfather. They, you know, that's the way they slipped in on Marion. They were first black family there.
I understand.
But they couldn't have done it by themselves.
Yes.
That was the issue.
Yes. Sounds like there were a lot of negative things that happened, but as a result, sometimes you had some outside support to help get through things.
Yeah.
But and back to you on the police department. Over the years that you were on the police department, you were there about 36 years.
36 years.
36 years. And are there any highlights during your career on the police department?
Oh, there are all sorts of highlights and lowlights. You know, some of the people that I've had a chance to meet, you know, Elvis Presley.
Oh.
You know, a lot of the entertainers that would come into town that we'd get a chance to meet, or that we were, you know, working their particular program. But it was quite a career. I mean, there's things, I suppose, that without having been in that particular arena, I never would have had a chance to see. I met Bill Clinton, shook his hand, and, you know, I mean, it was the officials that would come in town, we would, you know, have to provide security for, and so it was exciting. It was a good career, 36 years worth. My first years on the job, I had to walk the beat.
Yes.
And then I started making rank, sergeant, lieutenant. And when I was a sergeant, that's when I was doing the Crime Stopper program.
Yes.
Then I made lieutenant and then division chief. Actually, I skipped a rank.
Oh.
A captain, made division chief. So.
Okay.
But it was quite an interesting career.
That sounds like you had
And a
a,
lot of people that you meet meet the good people and the bad people, unfortunately. But
yeah,
there are a lot of good people out there that we met.
wonderful. And since you've retired, what are some of the things that you've been involved in?
Well, Dad was a member of the Owl Club. He joined, oh gosh, many, many years ago. My mom, Ernestine, brought the Waltz of the Bells. As we said before that she was in show business and this sort of thing. Well, 1950, the Owl Club had their first, was it 50 or 51?
1951?
51, had their first debutante presentation. The next year, Mom introduced the Waltz of the Bells, and we've been doing that ever since. The Waltz of the Bells is a what they would call a cotillion type dance, and we've continued with that tradition on and on ever since then. Mom was during the park programs, you know, the show wagon. And when I was in high school, I had a quartet. I was involved in a quartet, and we sang on the. I don't think you knew about that we were in
Oh,
did the show wagon event. Also had the African dance group,
yes.
and I was a drummer in that group, and so it's been fun. A lot of things that we've done.
I know you enjoy a little traveling and the little like seeing the world. a
Yeah,
little.
yeah. I think my experiences with the police department, I've seen more things than I ever thought I would see. And like I say, with the meeting, you know, presidents and getting involved in things of that nature, and that's been quite a career. It's quite an interesting career.
It's wonderful. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate all of the insight into your life and your ancestors, your grandfather and your parents. It's been a wonderful time visiting with you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
Jake, did you run out of